Hello friends, it's the Stitches. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a show and tell. I've been doing a lot of sewing lately, but not any like particularly big projects. I've mostly been working on small things, side projects really, but I've amassed a small collection of items. So I'd like to quickly show them to you, and maybe it'll give you some sewing inspiration, or at the very least just be mildly interesting. The first couple items you have already seen on this channel, but I just wanted to showcase them a little bit better. If you're only interested in new stuff, there will be timestamps in the description down below. To start, I have this red and black top that I upcycled. This was originally a very basic crop top that I thrifted in my most recent wardrobe building video. And while I liked it, I just wasn't really reaching for it since it was just a little bit too plain. So I cut the sleeves and I inserted some new panels. This is just some scrap knit that I used to turn the sleeves into long sleeves, and then the original hem just went at the bottom of the sleeve. I also took this patch off of a previous upcycle and dyed it red, although I was hoping that the lace would dye as well, but it did not. I might actually remove the lace and put something different on it. I kind of wish the reds matched a little bit better, but it works well enough. I also made a TikTok of the upcycle process. Next, I have this denim jacket that I have changed up once again. This jacket has been through many evolutions. When I first got it in 2016 or so, it was actually charcoal, but I bleached it and dyed it in 2017 or so. A couple years later, I painted the back, but then I decided I wanted something different on the back this time around. So I covered the original paint with a back patch that I made out of a thrifted baby blanket, and then painted it some more. The sleeves also got a little bit of the baby blanket added to them. On the lapels, this side I used some studs that I rescued from a thrifted belt that was heavily frayed. They were just very basic pyramid studs that you could sort of use a pair of pliers and open them up and then take them off so that they could be put on something else. The belt that I removed them from was a very old child's tap-out belt, so I was honestly putting it out of its misery by dissecting it. The other lapel has some vintage moon gems that have been in my sewing stash since I learned how to sew, basically. When I started learning how to use an actual sewing machine, I just had multiple relatives that dumped their entire excess materials stash onto me, and these moon gems happened to be part of that. We also just have some assorted buttons and faux pearls, faux flowers, basically anything and everything that I could find. Of course, this jacket will need to be hand washed now, but I don't really mind. Everything is sewn on with embroidery floss for extra strength so that I don't have to worry about things just kind of pulling off. And then of course I made some little miniature patches out of scrap fabric, just using tiny little bits that I couldn't really use for other projects. This third item I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on because it's just a very simple vest that I have shown you before. This I made to go with the pants that I made from the GLB pattern that I altered. I just wanted to show this to remind everyone what it looks like, because after I made this one, I actually used the same pattern to make this one. This vest is made from some vintage denim that has, again, been in my stash since I started sewing. In fact, my mom used this fabric to make me a jacket and pants set when I was like very small, young kid, and this is like the scraps left over from that. I also used scrap fabric for the pink backing, and in fact, I had so little of it left over that I had to piece together one of the inner panels. In the same vein of reusing patterns, I really loved those pants that I mentioned previously from the GLB pattern that I made with the plaid fabric. So I made another pair out of cherry red corduroy. The corduroy fabric is also, once again, from my childhood. I'm actually wearing the pants right now because I really like how they go with this sweater, so I'll just have a try-on portion to show you. Originally, I had a jumper dress made out of this fabric that was was made for me to wear to like holiday events, and I hated it. I hated that dress so much because it was thick, heavy corduroy that would pretty much always get paired with some sort of holiday themed turtleneck, and it was just way too hot. And I was always sweating. But I actually really like this fabric when it's not paired over a turtleneck because it's incredibly soft. Next, I have an upcycled item that doesn't really count as a garment. I've mentioned a few times that I like to buy athletic ballet tights because they're just incredibly durable and they're easy to find new in package secondhand. But I bought a pair that was just entirely too orange for my skin tone. So I decided to upcycle them and I dyed them black. I used the RIT synthetic dye. It took a couple baths, which is to be expected when you're dyeing something from a really light pale color to black. And then I cut open the crotch and then cut off the toe. It actually had it was like a stirrup style tight, so the part that was originally intended for the heel actually makes a really nice thumb hole. And I just distressed them a bit, and now I just have a little shredded top to wear underneath bigger shirts. I know a lot of people use the same technique with fishnets to make fishnet tops, but you can easily use any kind of tights, especially super thick tights like athletic ballet tights, because they won't fray as easily and they will last quite a bit longer, even if you are distressing them. My last garment is a very simple tank top because it is now deep into the summer months. This is another handmade pattern, and then I also used some thrifted fabric. I was super lucky to find fabric that was knit with teddy bears on it in my local thrift store. The fabric is admittedly a little bit more sheer than I would like, but it is summer and I do live in the desert, so it's appreciated for hotter weather. The purple fabric that I have on the neck and the cuffs is just some more scrap fabric that I had. Any random knit that is in my scrap bin usually gets turned into some sort of cuff on something. And the last thing I have to show you is some little embroidered patches that I made with scraps and some embroidery floss. I have a lot of embroidery floss because my mom used to do cross stitch and I just have a lot of it that's left over. And making little embroidered patches is a great way to just practice that skill. So now I have a nice little stack of these that I will be putting on random jackets and other things. And again, just a good way to use up tiny little scraps that you can't really use for other stuff. So those are all the items that I have to show you today. As much as I like to make sewing vlogs, sometimes it's nice to just enjoy the process without having to worry about setting up lights and a camera, and to just let myself create small projects and experiment from time to time. So with that, I hope everyone has a good day. I hope this was some good inspiration for you for things that you can make yourself, and I'll see you all next time. Bye! This third eye, hello.